Hello everybody, and here we have another Goon guest star, this time a replay by Psykmoe platooned up with Srb, both driving M5A1 Stuarts. Tier 4 light tanks in a Tier 7 match. Let's see how they go. Straight away they both head for the northwest side of the map, which is really the only place to go in a light tank. There's no point heading towards the middle of the south because you're going to die. You won't spot anything. The tanks going that way won't spot themselves. However, as a light tank you've got a little bit of room to play with up here, and you've also got some decent bushes with a good view. Psykmoe begins spotting east as Srb heads to position a spot towards the northeast. Looks like the heavy tanks are all heading south. Tank destroyers are all coming up the northwest. They have only two mediums that I can see on the map, a Type 58 in the middle and a Cromwell, which inexplicably went south. Not where I would take a Cromwell, not even close. The enemy Lukes comes rushing through the centre. Psykmoe doesn't get a shot off, and he would get lit anyway if he fired there, and at least most probably he would. And actually a pretty good shot from the Arty there manages to hit the Lukes and nearly kill it, and it gets taken out by the Type 58. Normally I wouldn't want to congratulate Arty for hitting a light tank, because most of the time Arty should not be shooting at light tanks, but in that case he didn't really have anything else he could hit, so it was a good shot. The Lukes is also quite dangerous. As the enemy Type 58 begins bitching about hacks, which he will spend the rest of the game doing, Psykmoe begins to work his way east. Obviously he doesn't have shots or spots on anything on that north ridge from down here because of the rocks and the bushes that conceal that road. Used to be a lot more exposed up there, but now it's much better covered. What he does find though is an open path to begin moving through. And if you find an open path in a light tank, that's pretty much free license to go and fuck with the first enemy TD or Arty piece you find. Apparently the Type 58 has 6 cents. I wish I had 6 cents. Psykmoe actually makes it all the way into the enemy backfield without being lit. In fact, he gets in behind this guy before he is spotted. Stur Emil, that's an easy target. Stur Emil, for some reason, is backing into him. That's the worst possible thing he could do. I think he's trying to pin him against the wall so that at least when the Emil dies, Psykmoe won't be able to get away. But he's obviously failed in that endeavour. What the Emil should have done was just tried to run and bait Psykmoe in front of somebody else. The AC-46 has been oblivious this whole time. Obviously he didn't think a light tank was a threat. He changes his mind when the same light tank begins killing him. The Stuart's gun actually isn't bad, even in a Tier 7 match, as long as you can get behind or beside people. The regular AP round has 81 pen, the APCR round has 130, which is, I think, roughly the same as the Panzer III 5cm. The same one that the Lukes was carrying on the enemy team. So it's a pretty respectable gun, and it fires quite fast. Nearly 1200 damage on oblivious Tier 7 tank destroyers. That is the very meaning of XP Pinata. That's just beautiful. If I could get over 3 times my hit points in damage on tanks 3 tiers above me in a light, I'd be a very happy man. Two arties sitting next to each other out in the open, so it isn't too hard to get rid of them. And then it's just the last couple tanks trapped up in that northern route through the mountains, hemmed in on one side by Srb Stuart and on the other side by a T-25-2. Psykmoe is not going to be able to get any more shots in this match, but I think we can safely say with just shy of 1300 damage in a tier 4 light tank, he's done more than his share. Contrast this with the kind of play you see coming out of pubbies in the light tanks, and you start to see just the vast gulf of capability. Actually 5 kills between Psykmoe and Srb, both in their little dinky tier 4 light tanks, taking on tier 6s and 7s and winning. That's something you'd have to be happy with any day of the week. Also, since I did mention it earlier, when you are playing light tanks on this map, you can go along the north, from the north spawn go north and then west, and just play around this area. From the south, either up here, depending on whether the enemy have mediums or not, up here and then play around that area, or just straight up like Psykmoe did along the one line and get into the bushes there. Either way, in the northwest you've got a lot more cover to work with, a lot more terrain to play with, and you've got numerous escape routes. You've also got a lot more camouflage concealment, and usually you've got some backup. If you were to take a light tank south, this is not good. This is terrible for light tanks, and unless you know that flank is completely open, there's nobody watching it, going there is suicide. Similarly, going through the middle, while there might be a lot of cover, there's also a lot of places you can be shot from. Guys up here have angles at it, guys up here have angles at it, anyone in their base has angles at it. You'll probably get people driving up the ramps here and coming in from underneath you, from the south. It's just not worth the risk. Maybe late game, when there's not many tanks left and you can more securely sort of estimate the positions of the enemies and what they're doing, where they're going, maybe then, but early game I certainly would not take a light tank through the middle, or if I was going to, I'd make sure I had some support. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and maybe you learned something from it, maybe you didn't. Either way, it's always fun to watch low tier light tanks beat up on much higher tier tanks than them. Thanks for watching. I wish you the best of luck on the field, and I will see you next time.